Today I'm going to do some Ninja Turtle fan art. Mostly I want to analyze how to draw the characters and then analyze some animation from the new movie, TMNT Mutant Mayhem. I saw it in theaters and my jaw was basically open for most of it. I thought it was so well done on every level. So the Ninja Turtle art book is not available yet. It is going to be released on October 10th. So I just kind of have to scrounge around online and see what art I can find. I found a video with all the Mutant Mayhem clips and trailers, so that's going to be a good resource. And I found some character turnarounds, like there's one for April and definitely 3 views of Leonardo, so I'm going to use what I can find online and try to break down how these characters are drawn. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to focus on drawing Leonardo. I'm trying out 2 different ways of drawing the head here, by first tracing them and then drawing freehand. There's a certain simplicity to the turtle's head design. It seems potentially easier to draw the heads from the outside in, by which I mean drawing the general outline to find the volume and shape of the head and incorporating the nose in order to flesh it out and show the angle. When you're learning how to draw characters, it makes a lot of sense to just trace the figure to find out how they're put together, but drawing from sight is also a great idea. Do both when you're learning. The turtles are designed in a way that is really fun for animators to draw for a few reasons. For one thing, because of the masks, their elbow and knee pads, and their belts, these details help define the angles the turtles get themselves into, and the mask is great for artists because they clearly wrap around the eyebrows and around the eyes. This helps in finding eye placement in relation to the rest of the body, and it allows you to show subtle or broad emotions by following the brow line and wrapping around the eyes. And 2, the heads are cartoony and expressive, but the bodies are based on stylized humanistic anatomy. The anatomy is laid bare, and you don't have to worry about clothing, so you can focus on great action poses and comedic acting, while having fun drawing simplified anatomy. I've picked a short, simple clip of Leonardo reacting happily after he accidentally knocks down a bad guy for the first time. It's a short clip, it's 12 poses over 22 frames. I started to quickly sketch the first key of Leo, and I added a drawing of the shelf behind him in order to help me map out his placement. I realized that something was a little off, so I just brought in a screen capture of my reference into my animation software in order to check my work. By doing that, I could see that I didn't draw the shell high enough and the screen right arm isn't angled enough. I could have figured that out on my own, but bringing in a screen capture for reference was just faster. It's pretty important to work quickly and be really adaptable in animation, since the process is so time-consuming. Next, I started to draw frame 4. But I realized I missed frame 2, so I went back and drew that one. It's very similar to frame 1. The pose is very subtly starting to go down into an antic. So back to drawing frame 4, which is the antic down. The shoulders go up, the elbows go in, Leo is crunched down. Next I drew frame 7, this is the up key. It's usually a good method to get your keys done first. This allows you to plan out your shot and know where to place breakdowns. This is called pose-to-pose animation. In this up pose, Leo has moved a good distance and his eyes have popped open and his arms are straight in the air. This is a great snappy animation, which is to say that there are no mushy in-between poses with eyes half-lidded. Snappy animation pops into a new pose with minimal to no in-betweens, and it looks good because it has elements that lead, drag, and new poses have enough time to read and settle. With the up pose done, I drew the breakdown at frame 5 between the down and up poses. This is a fun pose. Leo starts to move up and he leads with his shoulders, elbows, and his head. While his head is leading, it also drags down and his eyes remain closed. His hands drag, pulled by the wrists. This pose is doing a lot of work, and it's selling the move into the up pose. This is what I've got so far. Next is the overshoot at frame 9. The entire body continues up, but it doesn't cover as much distance as it did in the previous frame. The body stays straight, the head follows through and tilts up into an angle. The arms continue up and in. There are some smear lines from frame 7 to 9, which are on 1s, whereas Leo's animated on 2s over those frames. I think the smears help sell his motion really well in addition to the snappy animation. You'll see me doing a lot of flipping. This is a technique used often in paper animation, but I use it constantly in digital 2D animation. I do this while I study Leo's animation in order to see how far he has moved between frames and to compare his shapes. At this point, I added a peg in order to compare poses that were extremely similar. I could then remove the peg when I was done drawing in order to properly place the drawings in space. In newer versions of Harmony, you can use a dedicated tool called Shift and Trace, which is a different way of achieving the same thing. I'm using Harmony 14 Advanced, which is kind of old. I purchased a perpetual license a long time ago when I was doing a lot of personal animation, so this is just the version I have. But you can get Harmony 22 Premiere at this point, which I've used at jobs, and I know it has much nicer brushes and eraser options that actually look and act more like pencil lines, and newer versions have a bunch of advanced animation tools for hand-drawn as well as cutout animation. I'll include a link in the description that talks about the Shift and Trace tool. From frames 11 to 21 there is a settle. The head drags up, then down, then settles up. The arms and shell do the opposite, a down, up, down thing. Frame 13 is effectively a key because it's the point that the parts will start to change directions afterwards. The final frame is a really subtle settle. And there we go, this is what the animation looks like. It's a bit faster in my video than it is when I animated it because my video is 30 frames per second, but my animation was 24 frames per second. One handy concept you can use when animating to check your arcs and drag is to isolate parts and focus on one thing at a time. Here's a simple animation in which I've isolated the angle, placement, and timing of the head, so you can see how fantastic the drag looks. I had a lot of fun putting this video together, and I would love to do more Ninja Turtle fan art and animation analysis. I was only able to get this much analysis done this week as I've been busy with Inktober. I actually came up with my own prompt list called Coraltober because I was inspired by a coral colored ink that I found. I'm sharing my Inktober Coraltober drawings on my Instagram, which I'll link to in the description, and I'd love it if you follow me there so I can share more art with you. Please let me know in the comments if you'd like to see more Ninja Turtle videos in the future. Have a good one, and thanks for watching.